Yes, it's 12:15.
Okay. So I'm going to start to say good afternoon, Pnawn da and croeso. Good afternoon and a warm welcome to you all. And you're through to the module 4 of the Cancer Care Review training course. And today is all about cancer information and signposting. Now, this module was due to be taken by Hayley Phillips, but sadly Hayley is not well, and therefore I'll be conducting today's module 4, if that's okay. I understand there's still people coming in. Okay, so as I said, Hayley Phillips was due to conduct this module 4, but we send her best wishes and hope she's feeling better soon. So before we start, I'd like to remind you of our housekeeping rules, if that's okay. Please can you all mute your mics while presenting is running, and there will be opportunity for questions at the end. So if you wish to ask a question, please raise your hand and we'll allow you to ask a question. Don't forget to press the button, take your hand down once you've asked your question as well. You can use the chat function for questions, which we'll try and answer as we go ahead. Juliet and Emma are with me this afternoon. So as I said, Hayley Phillips is the regional nurse for the Macmillan Framework for Cancer in Primary Care. And those who are with us from West Wales, she covers Swansea Bay and Hywel Dda Health Board. She spent many years as a sister in plastic surgery, where she cared for a number of patients undergoing surgery following cancer diagnosis, including breast, head and neck, skin, sarcoma and oral cancers. So a wide variety of different cases. And following that, she spent about 4 years experience and concerns covering the whole of Swansea Bay Health Board. And this is why she feels so passionate for the experience that cancer patients have and how they can be helped to have a more positive experience. Bear with me. So I think we've gone through the housekeeping. So just a reminder, the objectives for today is to be able to identify what local resources are available to patients in your area, know where to refer patients for help they need, be able to access B Macmillan for further resources and information, and be a confident point of contact for the patient. So today I'm going to talk to you all about signposting and the cancer information services. In order to explain this, it is very important that you understand why it is important to know where to signpost patients for help and support during their cancer journey. A couple of years ago, Hayley carried out a bespoke patient experience survey, which was just for cancer patients around their experience in primary care. And this was probably the first bespoke patient experience survey for primary care. And this was carried out using one GP cluster with 4 surgeries. And she sent out over 362 questionnaires to cancer patients. And 126 patients responded to the questions relating to their cancer care and experience. So one of the questions she did ask was if they'd experienced any consequences relating to their cancer. And 100% of the patients said that yes, they were facing or had faced consequence relating to their cancer. And as you can see, the consequences they face are extensive and horrible, many of which they won't be able to overcome alone and require professional advice and support for these. This slide shows the consequences of cancer that the patients faced. And the larger the word in the slide, the more people suffered those consequences. So we can see a huge selection and very distressing sort of fatigue, anxiety, huge issues to deal with. Also in the survey, they asked the patients if they knew where to go to get advice and support. And shockingly, only 35% of patients did know where to turn to to get the advice and support they needed. And then a further 61% said that when they needed help and support, that they were not referred for their help or support. This tells us that our cancer patients have unmet needs, and that as primary care professionals, we have the opportunity to help. So let's ask the question, what help and support will cancer patients need? There's emotional, mental and well-being support that patients may need for anxiety, depression, survivor guilt, and a possible constant fear of reoccurrence. We heard Ilari's heartfelt story in Module 1 around how she felt that she was fine and didn't really realise that she was suffering with depression following a cancer treatment. There'll be many patients and their families who are overwhelmed by financial worries. Perhaps the patient is self-employed and the whole breadwinner for a young family, and now they're not able to have the worry around the cancer but no income. Having financial advice and support at this time is vital. There are also physical, medical consequences of cancer, which Dr. Gemma Eccles spoke to us about in Module 2. Pain, loss of appetite, fatigue, sexual dysfunction, and swallowing difficulties. This list is extensive, and many patients are just living with these consequences and not knowing where to go for advice or help. Work is also a huge issue for many patients. They may be unsure when to return to work, not feel ready to return to work, or return to work too soon, and then they have to go off again. Many patients may need advice around this. So what do I need to know? Well, the most important thing to remember, if that you don't need a huge amount of knowledge about cancer, and I think Juliet said this a few times in her presentation. And how can you? Because there are over 200 types of cancer, and you cannot be expected to know everything. But what is important is that you are able to listen and to know where you can refer your patients for the advice and support they need. So what could your role be following this cancer care review training? Your role is to support your patient
Sue,
So,
Sue, sorry to interrupt. You've muted yourself, sorry.
Apologise. Do I need to go back?
to the beginning of that slide.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I
please.
don't know how that happened. Apologies to you all. Thank you for letting me know. So let's start on this slide. Your role is to support your patient by carrying out a cancer care review, and most importantly, acting on the outcome of the review. It's hardly worth carrying out a cancer care review and recognising that the patient is facing, for example, financial difficulties, and then not referring or directing them for the advice and support. Many of your patients will have a clinical nurse patient specialist who will act as a key worker or a point of contact for the patient while they are having active cancer treatment. But what happens after treatment has finished? What happens if they have a cancer of a known origin and were never assigned to a cancer nurse specialist? So there is a role for you carrying out their cancer care review to become this point of contact. Another aspect of your role could be to act as a point of contact for your surgery. As Juliet mentioned in the last module, that she has now become known for the person to go to by other members of a surgery in relation to cancer information. So you could also then share with your colleagues new guidelines or information as they happen. In Module 5, we will talk to you about creating a community of practice amongst yourselves to share good practice and learning. Now, if we can go back to the previously mentioned patient experience survey, I was shocked to see that 71% of patients who went to see their GP with symptoms did not think that the symptoms they were related to cancer. So there is also a role for us to help educate our patients by raising their awareness of signs and symptoms, perhaps by running monthly cancer awareness campaigns or displaying information on notice boards or visual displays. So now we need to look at resources and what is available. So we'll be going through these in more detail. So we've got the larger charities, site-specific cancer charities, local resources, and NHS and local authority resources. So what we have to be aware of during these unprecedented times is that charities are currently facing crises, meaning that many are lacking funds and have been unable to raise the same amount of funds that they normally do. So you will need to check if the charities are still offering all the same services they did pre-COVID. And as you can see on this slide, it is predicted that some charities will not survive post-COVID. Just a little bit of information there. I think lots of charities are struggling at the moment. But things are improving. We've just had the Macmillan London Marathon on Sunday, so I'm sure that is a huge amount of fundraising for such charities. So some of the larger charities, I'm sure you're all familiar with them. We have Marie Curie, who offer end-of-life, practical help and support to patients and their families. And this isn't only related to cancer patients, so it's good to make note of that. Tenebus are a Welsh charity, and they can offer patients emotional support and advice, but they also host several mobile chemotherapy units across Wales, so that our cancer patients in Wales don't have to travel so far for their treatment. Then we have Cancer Research UK, concentrate their charity efforts around screening and improving research into new treatments and cancer care. And finally, Macmillan. Their ethos is around supporting patients and their families throughout their cancer journeys and help whenever they can to improve the patient's experience. They also fund many clinical nurse specialists and other cancer-related posts within healthcare. And just to add, that list of things that these charities do is not exhaustive, and all the charities do offer many more services. And we've just touched on a few so far. However, some of your patients may prefer advice or support from charities specific to their age or type of cancer, and there are many of these charities out there. Many offer peer-to-peer support and self-help course, as well as financial and well-being support. Your patients may feel more comfortable contacting these charities, especially if their cancer is specific to their age or sex, such as breast, prostate and children's cancer charities. There's so many out there. But then you have other patients who may prefer to seek help and support from local agencies, especially in rural areas where maybe they cannot access larger charity groups or unable to travel. On this slide, I've just mentioned some of the support groups and charities local to the areas that Hayley covers in her area. And again, there are many more out there that I have listed on this slide. Macmillan Neighbours are volunteers who ensure that people in the community are getting some support, maybe by shopping or just some company. The Old Mill Foundation was set up by a lady who lost her husband due to cancer and set up the centres to offer holistic therapies to cancer patients and their families, counselling and support groups. Swansea and Gower Cancer Self-Help Group and the West Wales Prostate Cancer Support Groups offer local peer-to-peer support to patients throughout their cancer journey. And benefits advice services are all across Wales, which I think are self-explanatory. Then you have organisations such as Maggie Centres, which we'll look at next. So this map is showing Maggie Centres, and we are currently have two. We're very lucky to have two in Wales. One in Berlindre Hospital site in South Wales, and one in Singleton Hospital in West Wales. There are numerous locations across the UK and 4 international sites. And in case, like myself, you were wondering where Khalida was, well, it's in Ohio in the US, a bit far to go. So here are some of the timetables, some of the services Maggie Centres are offering during the current COVID pandemic. And this is updated weekly. And this is just a snapshot of what you can expect. So you can see there are a whole host of different groups and activities, as well as counselling, psychological support, which I'm sure you're aware that trying to find counselling for your patients can be very difficult. And that's why it's important to try and utilise your local charities who may be able to provide this. Next, I want to look at a couple of local search engines, and you can use to find local support groups and third sector resources for your patients. I know Ceredigion and Powys sometimes use Info Engine, but Dewis is a fantastic resource to use to find out lists of resources local to your area and is really easy to use. However, I'm aware that some areas of Wales have more information within Dewis than others, and it works better if some areas than others. So I think you need just to have a good look and look at these search engines. Next, I want to talk to you about Macmillan Cancer Information and Support Services. And sometimes they're referred to as CIS, Cancer Information Support Services. And you will usually find these based within the secondary care settings. Although prior to the COVID-19, they did have a few mobile units which travelled around Wales. The Macmillan Cancer Information Support Services can be manned or unmanned and hold a whole range of leaflets and information for patients and their families. And most health boards have got a Cancer Information Support Centre in each health board. What we like about this service is that they can act as a one-stop shop for you as health professionals. If you are unsure where to signpost your patients, then the people working in these services will usually be able to help you. Now, I'm not sure if you've all been sent a list of contacts for the Macmillan Cancer Information Support Services for your area. And if you haven't received them, then we will make sure that we will send them out at the end of this week to make sure that you've got copies of who to contact in your area. So, for example, instead of trawling through lots of information as where is best place to find self-help groups for your patient, these will have all the information you need to help your patient. So give them a call. So have you ever been on the Macmillan website? It's a big place to go and there's lots of information there. So let's break it down. Julie had mentioned before the B Macmillan. And this is where you can order leaflets, posters, basically for anything you need. From support for families, healthy eating, different cancers, signs and symptoms. All you need to do is set up B Macmillan. Set up the B Macmillan account. You only do this once, and then you can order all your information. There is no cost for any of these books, but just be mindful to order what you need and don't book, 20, 30 of them in advance because they will go out of date. So if you only need to order one leaflet for your patient, you can order from B Macmillan, and the beauty is that you can send it directly to your patient's address with no cost. And I'm going to come back to that one, the cancer telephone buddies. So as I said, a lot of this information is available in different languages. That's the beauty of it, in Welsh included, and lots of the other languages that you might need. It covers in Braille and easy reading as well. And there's a selection of available leaflets. So as I said, you create an account, you log in, and you only have to do that once. You can also do posters on B Macmillan as well, and this is where you order your information, merchandise and brand. And also there, as I just mentioned, lots of information about cancers and different kind of books that you can offer. And these are examples of some of the books and leaflets that you can order. So here, then you've got my Macmillan, and again, this is where you go for your online groups, your chat rooms. Lots of patients find these useful because they can meet other people in the chat rooms, talk about their cancer, and they can be talking to other people the same kind of cancer. Some people find it very suitable for them, and lots of them have said to me during nighttime when they can't sleep, this is where they go and talk to other people on chat rooms very late at night when they can't sleep. Lots of online groups. Also, you will find lots of information there on Macmillan about financial help and support, the 24-hour support line number as well, and also the grants and benefits applications that you can have for your patients. So here are the top tips for signposting your patients for the support and advice they need. You can start building a resource pack with contacts, opening hours and location. And remember, you don't have to know everything about cancer, but you're able to signpost patients in the appropriate way. Sign up to B Macmillan, get familiar with the website, and utilise your Macmillan Cancer Information and Support Services, as they will have access to all the resources you require. And then, before I move on to the Cancer Buddy training, consider some homework for you. Consider who you need to influence with your practice to start carrying out a cancer care review. GP with interest in cancer, the practice manager, etc. Think about who would be able to help you gather information about newly diagnosed patients, probably your admin staff. Plan what you're going to say and how you're going to approach this within your GP practice. Set up the meeting with the above people to discuss. And give it a go. Start small and evaluate how you get on with this. So I just want to mention some other work that we're doing at the moment is with Cancer Buddy training. And this is aimed at admin and healthcare support workers in primary care who can also help with signposting and help you with support of cancer patients in your surgery. It's over a period of 2 modules, same lunchtime modules as we're doing today, over a 2-week period. And the first one we're starting is on the 16th of November next month. And that would be the introduction and fundamentals of cancer. And the second one on the 23rd of November, how to become a cancer buddy. So we'll be sending you all the information, plus the training on this. So if you know anybody in your surgery who might be willing to become a cancer buddy, then please forward this information to them so they can book their place on the training course. I wanted also to go back and talk about Cancer Buddy, Telephone Buddies campaign. This is something that was set up during COVID because a lot of the calls that Macmillan support line were having were all based how people were very frightened in their homes during COVID. So what they have set up is Telephone Buddies campaign, and it's a telephone buddy service, and it's there to listen to people who might be worried or scared, and it's like a buddy scheme, and they will have regular phone calls from their cancer buddy, who then will understand what they're going through. And as I said, they will give them a regular call each week to provide a listening ear, talk about what's important to them, and guide them to other cancer services. And that is the direct line support for Macmillan Cancer Support, which is open 7 days a week with the times there. So again, a good number to have under your belt to advise people where to go and what to do. So that's part of the presentation today. So I'm going to finish the presentation and then we'll go to any questions. And as I said, we will be sending you copies of the presentation and sharing you with the information regarding the Cancer Information Support Services across Wales. Now then, do we have any questions?
I don't think there's anything in the chat that we need to respond to, Sue, mainly about connection problems, but
what connection for me or?
No, I think people have had various issues, but we can send out the recording.
Okay. I know the weather's not brilliant across Wales today. I'm sure that has got something to do with it. I've got a lovely picture of Jeremy Roberts in front of me here. Jeremy, hello there. Welcome from Shropshire. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Sue.
And your team. I know there's a few of you on here today.
Yes,
so I'm glad you were able to join us. You've got your hand up for Jeremy.
Yes, please. What you've done today is absolutely ideal because we are in the process, our team will be going into practices to help improve cancer care reviews, and in this context signposting is a big part of what we'll be doing, and we'll be trying to link up with people within the practice who can carry that on after we move on to other practices. The thing you mentioned about the telephone buddies sounds fascinating. Is that something that is just in Wales, or is that part of a national Macmillan initiative, would you know, Sue?
I really don't know, Jeremy, or I know it is active in Wales, but I would have thought, and it's been running for a while, I would have thought it is UK-wide, because we know how desperate patients were, in especially the early stages of COVID, because 1 in 3 of their phone calls to the National Helpline was all about how frightened patients were about going to hospital. Should they go to outpatients? Should they go to screening? They were so frightened. So I would go on the website, have a little look and see, but you must have local contacts in your area who might be able to take it back to the UK office as well to ask that question.
Okay, that is lovely. Thank you very much. Do appreciate that. And
I think that is a valuable service as well. That weekly
yes.
phone call from someone is really, really well received from patients.
Absolutely. I mean, in a parallel role that I do, we use befrienders, for want of a better term, whether on the phone or face, an awful lot. And I see this as a really great asset if we can utilise it. Thank you.
Yeah. I want to say a little bit more about grants as well, because the Macmillan do offer a lot of, I think it's, bear with me, I think it's about £250 grant that they do offer. It might have gone up a little bit since I was able to do grants, but it is sometimes patients who might be desperate for, because of their cancer, that they need to do more washing. They perhaps have to have their heating on a bit longer. So a patient came to me before that they had a colostomy, and the colostomy bag kept on popping and soiling the bedclothes, and a washing machine broke down, and she was able to go to Macmillan to get a grant to buy a new washing machine. And you know, she was so thankful for having that money available, and I completed the form within 72 hours. She'd had the cheque back from Macmillan with a cheque ready to go out and buy a new washing machine. So things like that you don't think about, but just for you to be aware that there is that service there. It needs to be completed and it needs to be signed off by either a CNS or a GP to sign that off to say that the patient has got cancer. But the turnover, just for you to be aware of, is very quick and easy to do. So please remember that there is help available. Juliet, is there anything that I've forgotten or anything that I haven't said? Hello, Sharon.
No, I don't think so. Just going back to the grants, does it need to be a GP, Sue, or can it be a practice nurse who signs that off?
I think it can be it needs to be a clinical professional.
Okay.
So it could be the CNS, it could be the practice nurse, as long as you're or the GP, but it needs to be a clinical professional, from what I understand.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sharon, was there anything you wanted to ask? I think you were on mute when you were speaking.
No, it was only to say I have been in the session and then I just got logged out, so I'm back in.
Bless.
Sorry
bless
about that.
you. No, not at all. We are recording this session, so it will be sent out to you, and the slides will go out, and the copy of the Cancer Information Support Services. But have a good look at all of the the websites. There are a huge amount of support and offer there for everybody. It's knowing where to go, and then just keep all this information together. And a piece of work we did with some GPs was lots of different GPs refer people to different things. So just have a little conversation within your GP practice and see where everybody refer patients. It'd be interesting to see, what is available in your local area. Just a little tip that we've learned, that sometimes just find out what's going on within your own GP practice first is always a good starting point. Okay. So that's our module 4 over. If there's no further questions, but just to say we welcome you next week to our 5th and final module. And then we'll be looking at trying to support you moving forward with cancer care reviews. So any questions between now and next week, please drop us a line, either to myself or to Juliet, or we've got Emma who can then forward us all the emails. So have a good week and thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you very much.